welcome Markus to Metallarium Pages again. I think for the third time that we spoke about now, but now that we are talking about this for this Cemetery Skyline album, the first one. So how we'll start by asking as usually, how are you today, and how was the band Cemetery Skyline during the last year?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Busy again as always. Just been writing new Omnium Gatherum songs here in my studio, and exactly leaving tomorrow to Omnium Gatherum Asian tour, but at the same time doing promo for Cemetery Skyline album that we finally got ready after 4 years. That this album actually took 4 years to make, and it's the longest time I've ever made any album. But because we didn't have any pressures, we just did this album slowly in side ways.
Okay, so you mentioned that this album was you took 2 years to record or to create this new album. So exactly when do you start writing songs for these first albums of Cemetery Skyline? And perhaps these songs came from another projects that you have, Omnium Gatherum, Insomnium, and the list going on.
No. All the songs were written to Cemetery Skyline, only this band in the mind. And first songs were made in early 2020. So it's already over 4 years ago. So it's quite a long time. It's the longest time I ever made any album, like 4 years doing songs and recording. So, but it's a good album. I think we succeed pretty well. So it was good that we took all this time to make this album, because we didn't have any deadlines or pressures for record labels, because the band actually didn't even exist before we went to public like this year. So that's why we took all the time we needed, and we wanted to make the best out of this first Cemetery Skyline album that we could. And
nice.
Happy.
Nice. And well, I think the next question is a common one. And also you mentioned it. Why do you delay this album for years? Because you start these compositions at the beginning of the pandemic. Now we are out from the pandemic, and you are released this album.
Yeah, well, of course, this lineup is having members from numerous different bands. So all the bands have their own schedules, and so it was difficult to find the time for finishing this album. And then at the same time, we did a lot of songs. We had way more songs than it's on the album. So we just worked a big bunch of songs and polished them into the perfection. And then when we were pleased, then we started sending this to record labels, and that's why it takes a while to form a new band. But luckily we got immediately, like, I think we sent this to 5 different record companies, and we got 5 years. So we did our pre-production well. So it was worth the time we took.
Okay. So you mentioned one thing about the lineup. As you know that Michael from Dark Tranquility is here. You are in another BC bands. Now Centeri is from Amorphy. So all people in this band are very busy with own bands. Dark Tranquility, Omnium Gatherum, etc. So how will you figure it perhaps on a tour in Latin America, US with this new band when all people are busy with their own bands?
Well, it's easy. We are not gonna tour a lot.
Okay.
At least because, and at first we had a plan that we are just doing music, but now this plan, we already played our first festival in Finland. So all right, now we agreed that we are gonna do some shows, and now we have some shows booked for next year. Even Prog Power in USA. So there's gonna be shows, but like a longer tours, it's gonna be next to impossible to get done, because all the bands are having these schedules. You never know what's happening in the future, but like at this point, it seems quite hard to get like a longer tour. But of course, we try to keep this all also like easy and interesting. So we play every now and then some shows that makes some sense, and that keeps these things interesting and fresh also for ourselves, because that's the thing with this band. It's fun because it's something completely different than our other bands. That's why we actually formed this band, because it doesn't make any sense for me to form a new melodic death metal bands, because I already have two, and Michael have two melodic death metal bands also, and so that's why.
Okay, nice. So one detail that I'm curious about is that this is the first album from Cemetery Skyline. And a person like you who always releasing one production per year, last year one EP, before the last year some new album, and the list going on. So you are still releasing, I think since 2022, you're releasing four productions in each year. So that's amazing for a musician. Albums, EP, live productions, tours, you are very busy. So for this, do you have the same feeling sensation that you are releasing this first album, like when you released the first albums from Insomnium, Omnium Gathering, or your other projects?
Of course, you are always really hyped about your new release, or you should be, because you always bleed for the album and give your best and everything you can, and it always comes through suffering, because it's never easy to compose an album and do it ready. But I have to say, it's my dog coming.
Yeah, hi to meet you again.
big dog. But I'm really hyped to the Cemetery Skyline album for many reasons, because it's been a really long time that I've been in a band that has a clean singing, and so that's one point. Like, I'm happy to do this kind of so-called poppier music with Cemetery Skyline, and this is a group of friends. I've been knowing like Michael and Santeri for 15 years, and always having a good time in the tours we've done, and always listening to music and drinking beer together. And Victor and Vesa also, we've been knowing a long time, so it's just a lot of fun with this group of people. And this is that kind of project that I never thought is happening. So it's kind of fun that accidentally this band came real. So it's something completely different and new. So of course it gets me pumped and hyped for this.
Okay.
Really interested to see like what people think about this, but of course it doesn't matter, because I'm happy with this release. Really happy. It's the main point, because music is selfish thing. First you have to please yourself to make some music demos, and then you have to please second your bandmates, so it's quite tricky. Then you have to please audience, so audience is the last one to please, so it's already finished product by then.
Okay, nice. So at the time you were composing this album, that's normally when you compose the riffs, the rhymes, because you are a great composer for a lot of bands. So did you think about having these musicians accompanying you since the beginning? That, hey, for example, when you create the song Violent Storm, you think, say, Michael Sen need to song this song. So you think that when you composed that album, or perhaps it was a matter of time when Michael approached to you and said, I like the song, I can sing that song.
Well, I don't remember. Violent Storm was one of the last songs that we wrote for the album. So when I was writing that song, I already knew that Mike is going to be singing that song. So this is going to be cool and great.
Okay.
But many songs from the album, it was like Michael was not in the band yet. So we worked those together with Sunday, and then we didn't know exactly who is going to sing these songs. So it was exciting times, but all's well that ends well. And then just for some reason I was listening to Dark Tranquility Moment album, and then I thought like we've been thinking our heads off like who could be a good singer for Cemetery Skyline, and then I just listened Moment album, and I got it like Michael has such a unique and beautiful clean tone which would fit perfectly this gothic landscape, and he have never have a band that he sings cleans only. And then I asked him, and he was immediately in. He was happy with the songs and liked them, and he said like yes in a minute. Of course it was a pandemic time, so everyone was looking for something new to do.
Okay, okay. So, one thing that what bands normally, well, now this new album or this first album are released by Century Media. And so, how was the approach to release this album by, through Century Media? Because perhaps it was to do with that you are both bands are with Century Media, or how was the approach? Century Media perhaps heard that two songs for that album and say, "Hey, I like to release this album because I liked it." Who knows?
And that's a funny story because I wanted to a little bit tease Century Media with this. Um, I was there in some meeting for Omnium Gatherum and Insomnium in the headquarters of Century Media in Berlin. And then at the end of the meeting, I just said to the Century Media boss, Philip, that actually I have a new demo. I wanted to do it like an old school way, that not sending any emails, just like I had the songs in my phone. And then Philip said like, oh yeah, well, what's the project? And I didn't tell anything. I just said like, let's listen to it. And we went to Sony, amazing listening room in their headquarters, which had maybe the best stereos ever. And then we were listening, sitting there with Century Media people, and I put the tape on, and they were blown out. Like in the middle of the first song, Philip was saying like, "What is this? I want to sign this for sure, but what is this?" And then I just teased them and said like, "You probably know all these guys in the band, and just you at least you should spot the singer because you've been working with the singer for 25 years." And then they were like, is it Michael? And I was jackpot. And that's how we went it with them.
Okay, nice, nice.
Old
So,
school way, like these old school stories that Glenn Benton from Dayside went to Roadrunner office and gave the tape like, this is my band, listen to it. And that was my approach to that kind of old school. Walk into the record label office and said, I have a band.
Okay, okay. So talking about a matter from these labels, as you can see, there's a lot younger bands that are releasing the albums or are choosing us to self-produce and release the music independently. So for you now, also the labels are in this era has a different kind of meanings because the physical productions is not longer anymore for everyone because they just the collectors wants to a physical copy. So for you now, what is your point of view, or what's your point about the label? What's your point of view about the labels now compared to the self-released productions in the world?
Yeah, tricky question because I myself I am a collector and I listen to CDs and vinyl still, and that's like the way for me how the music should be released, and that tells the whole story because with streaming services it's always like people probably don't even listen to the whole album. They just, you can check out from the statistics that the first part of the album gets more hits than the end, which is sad because I always think about the whole perspective for the album. But I don't know anything about releasing music by yourself because I've been working with labels the past 20 years, but probably it's difficult still because labels do a lot of digital marketing and digital work, but of course it's possible if you have the money and the time to do it, then go ahead. Yes, but especially it takes a lot of time to release stuff by yourself, and I don't have time for it because I'm having too much bands. But
Yeah, well, yeah, that is true. That is true. So now, well, talking about now about the concept, as you can see, a lot of people are trying to. When I see for the first time Cemetery Skyline, or when you mentioned me to 1 year ago about this project will release soon, and you mentioned that you are creating a Gothic project, Gothic rock project influenced by Fields of Nihilism, etc., etc. But now there is a thing for the fans and label, well, fans, reviewers, media in general that try to label a band. So for you, what is this? Because I saw that this album, for some people say this Gothic rock, other people say it's Gothic melodic metal rock. So there is a lot of labels trying to put exactly the label of Cemetery Skyline. So for this, what is your point of view, or what kind of level do you approach certainly to Cemetery Skyline? Is it a gothic metal band? It is a gothic rock metal band? Or how was your approach? How do you perceive the sound perception from your side?
Maybe all people should listen to the album and decide by themselves what they want to call it. Cemetery Skyline music. But yeah, I agree that we at the first, when we formed this band, we were speaking about let's form a gothic band, but we are not like 100% pure gothic stuff. You can hear a lot of different, even pop elements or whatever, heavy metal in this. But immediately when we said the goth word in the press release, and the press release was written that gothic metal band, then we have been labeled to gothic metal band since then, and that's how the press releases work. If we would have been saying like we are occultic rock, then everyone would be labeling us for the occultic rock, and that's you get the label really quickly always what you say for the public. And but I'm okay with people calling this whatever, gothic metal, dark rock. So that's true. It's at least we are not melodic death metal, that's for sure.
Okay, nice to know. So talking about now the albums, or talking about from the singles of these albums, so how do you feel the receptions or reception the single has been so far to the fans in general for the last singles or for whole singles at the moment? How do you usually choose the singles for the new album, considering that your sound, as you mentioned, is very diverse? It's not only gothic. I think just 1, 2, or 3 songs are very gothic, but the other songs are very different kind of music. So, and it would be difficult to have one song that encompasses all music to put in each in that album.
You mean what would be the one song?
Yes.
Oof, that's a tricky question. Well, maybe Violent Storm. Maybe, I don't know. I don't even remember. We discussed together quite a long time what singles should we release, and Century Media wanted to release 5 singles. That's some new commercial way of them, that they're releasing 5 songs before the album release, which is quite a lot in my opinion. But Def Leppard released 7 singles from Hysteria, so I'm okay with it. But yeah, maybe we decided to release Violent Storm because it really represents the goth side of the band, and it kind of gives the good way of the whole band. The Coldest Heart, the third single, that's maybe the first song I brought on the band, but it then sounds really much like Type O Negative, and it's tribute to Type O Negative, which was the first main idea to form this band. We just wanted to do a tribute for old gothic bands like Type O Negative, Sisters of Mercy, and then we failed and we did some original stuff. But yeah, that's, and if we would have been releasing like the ending song of the album, the long ballad, or behind, I don't even remember the names because I only remember the working titles. That's always the problem. But yeah, you can really open different kind of views on what song you release first as a new band. So I think there was also Century Media had something to say about the singles. Maybe I don't remember anymore. Too much happening in a short time.
Okay, nice. One detail that always caught my attention, and you said a few seconds ago, is that many well-known bands from Doomer, Gothic, melodic bands, and always mention Type of Negative as a great influence for the Finland scene. Because I spoke with Swallow the Sun. I spoke with you. I mean, you mentioned Type of Negative is a great influence for you. I read interviews from him, from the 69 Eyes, and all these kind of fans are related with the Gothic style, melodic, melancholic. I don't know why. So that's a common thing. So do you think Type of Negative was a great influence for the melodic doom Gothic Finland scene in general?
Yeah, definitely, because you can spot like doom metal and gothic metal and even some Beatles from Type O Negative band. And I don't know, maybe it just have a sweet spot to Finnish landscape because it's really kind of melancholic, and then the band is having a really great taste of black humor, which is really Finnish kind of black humor. So these combined maybe have a sweet spot for Finland. That sentence really followed their steps and like lyrics and image and whatever, and him too. So, but Type O Negative is one of those bands that it just when you are sitting late night with your buddies and drinking few beers, then it always comes at some point that someone is wanna play Type O Negative. So it's really important band for many, my friends at least. So
Okay, okay, nice, nice. So talking about now the promotion of this new Nordic Gothic. So what kind of plans do you have for this album? You mentioned me that you will, well, you will do some gigs there in Europe usually, and also perhaps you will release more songs because the half of this album were released by singles. Now we expected just the next 5 songs that will be released soon. So perhaps on the video keep coming. Perhaps you are already working in a new songs for this new album for a new album. Who knows?
yeah, we recorded more songs than is on the album, so we definitely have a continuum for the band. Already thinking some digital singles after the album release, and or maybe EP, or on then slowly writing some new stuff. I already have few song ideas for Cemetery Skyline, and then doing some shows and how whatever we can do. We don't want to kill this band with doing too much, because this is too much fun to kill with working too much and with these crazy schedules. So we try to keep this fun and fresh and keep it going. And the plan is not to be any one album wonder. We even signed the record deal for 3 albums, I think. So we have sold our souls to make more Cemetery Skyline music.
Okay, okay. All the tale talking about from Disney album is the cover art because for the fan base of metal general are really against to the Christianity, and when they will see this the cover art, there's a cross in there, like the name Nordic Gothic. So there's a lot of speculations. I know because I'm for the 80s, and usually when you talk about the Christianity into the metal, hey, I don't like it. That's why a lot of good bands from the Christianity side are very rejected for the fan base from the metal. So for this, what are you trying to express with the cover art? And I think the label was something to do with the name Nordic Gothic, because you mentioned that you don't want to do a gothic metal band. Just the label put gothic metal and everything spread out for that moment.
Yeah. Well, the cover artwork more symbolizes like the graveyard. It has nothing to do with the Christianity, and there's nothing religious in our lyrics, and that's not our cup of tea at all. But it's more cemetery, graveyard. There's crosses, and cross is a strong symbol for death and graveyards. And the title Nordic Gothic it's more about the lifestyle in Sweden and Finland, which is our own kind of Gothic worldview, because at the same time, well, Finland have been rated as the happiest country in the world many times in a row, and Swedish is pretty much like the same. So we're really happy countries, but we still have like the biggest trade of like people dying alone. Dogs messing. Yeah, because so many people are living alone in Scandinavia, and people like to be alone, and it's like a self-chosen loneliness. And we don't have that kind of culture of like big families and all the relatives living together and stuff like that. And because of that, so many people die alone in their houses because they're living alone, and they can be found like even months later when the smell comes. And that's the theme behind Nordic Gothic, like the weird lifestyle in the north. We chose to live alone, and we are deep diving in our own aloneness, and it's not a big bad thing, but then so many people die alone. I think Sweden is having the biggest rate of people dying alone in their apartments, and that's kind of like the another angle for the happiest country in the world. So
Okay.
it's a paradox. And the cemetery, the cross in the cover, it's a symbol of like big cities where is so much loneliness. So it's like a graveyard.
Well, yeah.
even like so many people living near you, but you don't see them, or it's like a
Okay.
solitude among the big people, big amounts of people.
Okay, nice. So we are very close to this interview, Markus, and talking about a topic that changed the perspective of the understanding of the metal worldwide. It is social networks. As you know, today, thanks to this media, metal became more understandable and comprehensible, and even lost the sense of impact, fear, or mystery that it had during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. When you talk about brujeria, and you believe that they were narco-satanic people, or when you're talking about King Diamond and was thinking living in a castle with demons, when you see the cover arts or the booklets of that of his albums, you think that he lives in a castle with demons, vampires. I believe that sometimes. So, or Bruce Dickinson writing lyrics for only bothered conservative people, or like the Twisted Sister did something this kind of, or the satanic people burning churches, etc., etc. There is a lot of fear, mystery, darkness into the metal since the beginning, because I think just is for fun sometimes, some days, and is so on other things there is a way to do. So now there is no mystery or curiosity that metal gave you on general level. What is your point of view about this move away from the fear, mystery, or curiosity that the metal had before, and now everything is comprehensible?
Yeah, I miss that. Like definitely in the 80s and 90s there was like no more mystic in the metal, and now everything is open, and social media is the last thing that you can keep your secrets and mysteries with the band. So it makes this thing way more boring in my opinion, and I would love to be more antisocial and mysterious and not tell everything into social media and for the media itself. So luckily there's some bands like that could, like Ghost was a nice example. They kept the mystery, but then you have to be like an anonymous guy, and then in the end you will be still known by the people. But there's pros and cons. Then of course it's easy to find fan base all over the world, and it's easy to connect with people because of the social media, but it definitely at the same time it kills something, the mystic vibe which I love in metal, and it's gone nowadays.
Okay, well, that is true. Well, Markus, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. As usual, you're a terrific guy to talk. He spoke about a lot of things, about especially for this new ball that we respect a lot. Oh, I hear completed the album. It's a great one. Congratulations on this new one. So perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect someday Cemetery Skyline arrive here? Who knows? And obviously, Metallerium followers.
Well, at least we saw this year with Omnium Gatherum already in Latin America, and Insomnium is coming to Latin America later. So I will be there, but hopefully we will get something for you like in next year or maybe year after that. So that's the plan. We try to play at least somewhere near you. So when you see a Cemetery Skyline date, you have to come because they will be rare. They don't happen every day.